Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Engadget podcast recording live stream. I am reviews editor Cherlynn Lowe, and my usual co-host for the podcast, Devendra Hardwar, is off taking a very well-deserved break. So, in his place, we have Matt Smith, UK bureau chief. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
So awkward and formal the way you just said hi to me. It's like the
Hello,
nicest thing
Cherlynn.
you've said to me all day, and it's only 10
yeah.
a.m. Also, you'll see Ben Elman, our producer for the podcast. Hey, Ben.
Hey, I was deemed neutral good of the Engadget podcast recently.
Congratulations.
So yeah, today we're going to talk all about not only Google's event from yesterday, but also Microsoft just dropped a whole bunch of Surface news. Well, not a whole bunch, but some Surface news this morning. So we're going to dive deeper into all of that stuff, tell you what's up. Heads up for everyone that's on the YouTube live stream right now. We're actually recording for the podcast right now. So we're going to do segments where we're being very formal, talking to the mic, recording our audio. So we can't really engage with the live chat users during those times, but there will be breaks between segments where we will be answering your questions as you shoot them into the live chat. Ben will also be keeping an eye out on those. And if you prefer Twitter, you can always tweet at Engadget with the hashtag podcast live. Sometimes the YouTube live chat just really goes by very quickly. So that might be a better way to get your question answered. Also,
if you don't want to fight it out in that chat.
Yeah. I look very distracted because there's this window washing machine right outside my window right now, just going up. So if the color on my face changes, it's because the machine's moving up right now.
Have you seen any of those videos of cats interacting with the window washers?
Yeah, they're pretty adorable. Yeah. You not seen those, Chair? You just only have machines.
I've seen cats interacting with other things like laser pointers and that stuff.
Cool story, Cher. Great story.
So, usually we do a little bit of waiting for people to just join the stream, but I think we're more or less ready to start recording the show. If we want to.
Yes. So let's do a sync.
Okay.
If everyone's recording already, so just clap, tap a table, whatever, in 3, 2, 1.
Oh, I was a bit late. Sorry.
That's fine.
That's fine.
It's a ballpark thing.
Okay.
So what are we talking about? We're talking about Google event. We're talking about
we don't need to. Yeah, we can just
stuff.
go right into it, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, geez, with the Devendra gone, I have to do all the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Okay. We good for me to start with the intro?
Yes, you can start with the intro when you are ready.
Okay, so we're going to start recording for the podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Engadget podcast. I'm reviews editor Cherlynn Lowe, and today, instead of my usual co-host Devendra Hardwar, who's off on break, I am joined by UK bureau chief and generally fairly charming person, Matt Smith. Hi.
Hi. Charming for 1 hour per day. That's the limit.
Yeah.
You get the entire hour here, right now.
Yes, and Matt is here to talk with me about all the news that happened this week, with a major focus, obviously, on Google's Pixel 5 event, or they called it Launch Night In, and it was actually nighttime in the UK, I think, when it was happening. Microsoft also unveiled a bunch of new Surface devices. We're going to talk about that as well, but also, Matt Smith, your review of the iOS 14 software, I guess, just went up this week too. So we're going to tell people what you thought about that. As usual, if you're liking this show, please subscribe to the Engadget podcast on your podcast catcher of choice. Leave us a review on iTunes because that'll help more people discover and hopefully like us. And yeah, if you have more thoughts, you can always send a long, rambly email to podcast@engadget.com. All right.
Okay, let's go straight into Google.
Perfect. All right. Sorry, that was not meant to be in the recording. That was sighing. I'm sorry.
Okay. Great.
It's just the 2020 finding its way out.
Indeed, yes. Okay. So on Wednesday, Google had its Launch Night In event, which, again, like I said, people were pointing out that it was not nighttime, but I don't think Google really cares. And they unveiled as we expected, the new Chromecast with Google TV, the new Nest audio speaker, as well as the Pixel 5 and Pixel 4a 5G. Now that we've had some time to sit with the news and kind of like think about what we feel about these products, Matt, what are your thoughts? Like, what stood out to you?
I like the look of everything. I just aesthetic wise, like that new Chromecast is really cute, very stylish, really slick. The Nest audio speaker also looks really cute. A selection of colors. I think the main take home was we knew all this was coming. Yeah. There was nothing. The only thing exciting, and I see it in your notes, was that the Pixel 5 comes in a really pretty color.
I'm wearing today.
I mean, I realized like I'm already on trend because that's my iPhone case color as well. This looks like it could be a Pixel 5.
Yeah. You might be.
I'm just showing this on the YouTube stream for podcast people. They won't know what.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of, actually, I should have shouted this out earlier, but those of you who are listening to the podcast, if you want to join us on Thursdays at 10 a.m. Eastern on the Engadget YouTube channel, we do live recordings of the Engadget podcast where you can shoot your questions directly at us and have them answered in between segments. Anyway, so yeah, the Pixel 5 and 4a 5G, I think, is what most people were excited to see. However, I think most people also came away disappointed with what was actually in the phones. This is like a $699. So the Pixel 5 is the so-called flagship model, and it's $699. You get 5G for the price and an ultra-wide camera, which I am stoked for or happy about. But then like a Snapdragon 765 processor, which I think the chip nerds and the hardware nerds are pretty upset about. Does that bother you, Matt?
Not at all. Like I can't remember I think the Pixel 4a, which we've both played with, and I have one somewhere on my desk somewhere right now that I can't see. But that has a very modest processor, as did the OnePlus Nord that I reviewed recently. Like I think it is the power users, the kind of people that watched this event last night and had opinions immediately.
Right.
Like they're very, they have very high standards. So yeah, if you have high standards, the 765G is not going to be as good as, say, an 865, which is like the fancy processor you're seeing in the top drawer Samsung phones and things like that.
Yeah, and even the S20 FE, the fan edition, which I believe is going for about $600, is using an 865 with triple cameras. So there's a lot of comparison to that phone there. We can get into that a little bit later. But you were saying?
No, like it was just funny how much they took away from the Pixel 4 in comparison to the Pixel 5. So, I mean, let's run through it. So the main things is they've got rid of this, hugely trumpeted 5 years in development Soli radar module, right? Yes. So that means no face unlock and none of those, hands-free motion sense controls. Like, Cher, you didn't use the Pixel 4 for a while because it wasn't face detecting you, right? Like,
yeah, I actually held off on using the Pixel 4 as my main because the face unlock was so bad. But I will say Google has rolled out updates in the past few months that make it a lot better. Actually, I can even unlock it with a mask on now.
Well, that's good. The main like motion sense controls, I did not go near them whatsoever. Like,
yeah, it was like kind of annoying too, and I think also causing battery drain, which is a huge issue with Pixels in general. So I can see why they removed it, in part because A, it seemed like it wasn't doing very much. To be a little harsh, it seemed like it was pretty useless. B, it was a battery drain, right? And C, it's like a component that would be expensive to add.
So like there's a lot of wins here, and it's a net good for the Pixel 5 compared to the Pixel 4. And like you said, battery, that's another thing that we do know about, that the Pixel 5 comes with a much bigger, I think, 4,000 milliamp hour battery.
Yeah. We're finally starting with a 4.
Yeah, right? Like, I think the 4 was like, I want to say like 3.2 or 3.4, 3,400 or so.
Yeah, 33-ish. I don't know the specs offhand right now. Yeah.
But the point is, this is a huge jump up. And that's like, those final hours of the day where you just want your phone to last till you're back at your apartment, right? That's those core hours of use you want. So then, again, it's still good stuff.
It is, but as is usual for Google, they've used like software to make up for poor hardware, or not poor hardware, but like, limited hardware. And in this case, I think with the Pixel 5, they also announced this thing called extreme battery saver mode, which to me is like, I don't know if I want my phone to be that basic just to get a few extra, minutes or hours out of it. It's going to like kill all but essential functions, it seems like. And I don't know how much more use that'll be than an already existing battery saver mode.
Yeah, just put more battery in the thing. Like, why like often like we've seen these extreme, battery saving modes on other phones, often Android phones, and it is just you can like barely get to SMS, maybe email, phone calls.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, WhatsApp is often included, but that's not why you have your phone. You have your phone to take photos, to watch Netflix on, the train home. You've got it to listen to podcasts or read a Kindle book on.
Right.
Like, you don't want this really basic functionality. It's all but having a dead phone.
Yeah, like who's even taking calls anymore? Like, you know what I mean? Like if you
try not to.
only allow me, I try not to either. But it's weird. This is a weird approach. I do think though it seems like they sacrifice quite a bit just to have a 5G phone that comes under $700. When we had
Sorry, carry on. Yeah, no, please go ahead.
No, we had a little like roundtable. Me and a few reporters had a roundtable meeting with hardware chief Rick Osterloh right after the event, and a lot of us asked him that question, like, "This is weird. Are you not doing flagships anymore?" And Osterloh was like, "No, that's not that's not beyond the realm of possibility." And like someone was saying, did you have plans to make a phone like this before COVID struck, or was this kind of a pivot because this year just doesn't make sense economically to make a flagship level phone? And I think Osterloh said something along the lines of, no, we couldn't predict a pandemic, and this has been in the works for about a year. So it looks like Google's approach it may be to focus on giving people like a good phone for like a reasonable price, and then it's interesting to see what they choose to leave out in that case, right?
Yeah, like if I've put my conspiracy theory hat somewhere else, but if I had it on, my entire, it makes complete sense why they made the Pixel 5 cheaper and they made a 4A twice, the 4A and the 4A 5G. It's because the 3A was such a hit for them last year. I think you did the report on the earnings, right, Cher? And they sold like double the amount of phones.
Might have been Nate who did that report, but they sold a lot of Pixel 3As and also have sold a lot more Pixel 4As. The affordable line, the A line, is really good, and it's just hard to be like. It almost feels like the 4A is the better phone, is because for the price you're getting exactly what you expect, whereas the 5 is twice that and doesn't feel like it's twice the phone, right?
Well, it's not quite twice, is it? Like it's 500 for the 4A 5G, right?
Well, I'm talking about the 4A, which was 350.
Oh, yeah, totally true. Yeah. And, 5G isn't everywhere. Like 5G is still not, we're still very early days for these next generation networks. But I'm already recommending the 4A to loads of people. It'll be interesting to see if there's just enough stock for everyone that wants 4A phones to get one.
Will you continue to recommend the Pixel 5 to your friends and family and your mom, by the way?
It's an interesting one. Hi to Engadget Superfan, my mum. She's probably listening somewhere. That's the thing. Like, can you recommend the Pixel 5? I mean, I like wireless charging. I like, the color, the sage green color is beautiful. I like that as well. Water resistance, one extra camera. I think it might just depend on, we'll test these cameras and see if the Pixel 5 has a noticeably better camera experience.
Yeah.
But like the 4A had an incredible camera experience for
and I mean some of
the price. So yeah, I think I'll start recommending the 4A.
I mean, but you're getting these new features. You should.
Yeah.
Speaking of the cameras though, there's some new features coming, right? Like portrait light, which we've seen on iPhones and we've seen on some other. Huawei's actually made its own version of that. And it's going to be nice for me at least to play around with that feature. Night sight with portrait mode. You've got cinema pan coming as a stabilization mode for videos on the phone. So great. Would love to test them out, but it's also, these features aren't things that they need to necessarily keep on the Pixel 5. They could roll it out backwards to 4As and so on. So, I mean, other than the fact that it doesn't have an ultra wide camera.
That's what I was going to say. That, like the lack of 2 cameras, I think, on the 4A and stuff like that will stop maybe the panning mode, which is funny because the LG Wing, which is also kind of floating around, Richard Lai is writing like an impression piece on it at the moment. The Wing does that as well with its cameras. Yeah. So it's very, isn't it interesting how all these phones appear with nigh on identical features?
Basically, I mean, people are running out of ideas,
Yeah.
but it's to see who does it better. I want to explain extreme battery saver mode a little bit better, like exactly what you get for extreme battery saver. So, according to Google, it will let your phone's battery get an extra 48 hours depending on how you customize it. So, when you turn it on, extreme battery saver will change your phone screen timeout to 30 seconds. So, instead of staying on the whole time, it'll just go dark every 30 seconds, or if you're not using it for longer than 30 seconds. It will also turn off your work profile if you have something like that set up. And then it will also let you pick what apps you want to keep running while everything else is like disabled temporarily. So it sounds like you have the option of picking what runs. For me, man, I don't know. What would you keep running if you had to choose, like when your phone is dying and you want to have only 2 or 3 apps running?
God, that's tricky, right?
Right.
I'd have like some kind of audio player, whether that's music or podcast. I can probably run those. Yeah,
It's
I
a
don't
hard
know.
one.
Do some come to mind for you?
I mean, I almost always just think Instagram, but Instagram, A, is a battery hog. B is like frivolous. I would have Spotify, hopefully, to play my local tunes, because that's essential for me when going home on my commute and stuff. I can't think what else. Sometimes maybe maps if you're out and about and you're looking for a place. Ooh, it really
Yeah.
depends.
There's things as well, like, these days you can't just turn off Bluetooth for that slightly little bit more of battery because we're using
Right.
wireless headphones or, other peripherals where you've got a wearable that connects to your phone. There's
Yeah.
things like that. I'm looking at extreme battery saver now. I'm just seeing what kind of options. So yeah, it seems like you can very much pick and choose what this will affect. But then doesn't that ruin the whole point of it?
Yeah, and also, and people were always like, turn on airplane mode. Like, maybe that's the way, but I don't know. We'll have to put this to deeper testing to know, like, maybe when I have the phone in hand and I'm testing this mode out, maybe I'll know better what, like, my use cases are. Right now, I'm not going anywhere. It's not like I'm not next to a plug hole.
Yeah.
So it's okay. What else? Did you have anything, like, else that jumped out at you about the 5 or the 4A5G?
We've kind of covered the main things. Like, it's retreading a lot of ground, right? It's funny that the head of Google hardware said it was a flagship, or like he believed. I'm not sure how he worded and what his way around it.
Yeah.
But
It's more that he said that it's not impossible that Google might make higher end flagships soon. I think a lot of the people on that call with me were miffed at the fact that the processor is slower than last year's flagship model. And there's not that much really exciting about it. I mean, there's this feature called Hold for Me, which helps you stay on hold with an operator on like your tech support call or when you're trying to get in touch with your bank, and using Google's Assistant AI, which powers features like duplex for restaurant reservations. I think it's going to be good and helpful, but doesn't feel like it's that great a deal. I don't know.
Here's something you might not. I think this might have happened, or at least people realized it when you clocked off for the night. Do you know that in the UK we're getting these phones on the 15th? Well, we're getting the Pixel 5 on the 15th in the UK and several other countries, but in the US they're not coming till the end of October.
Oh, so you guys are getting it earlier than us?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's like it's 2011.
What I saw was that people were pre-ordering today, but the ship date was October 30th, which
that's it. Yeah,
it's a special day for me. But you guys are getting it a little bit earlier, 2 weeks earlier, which is, I mean, I guess good for you. Congratulations.
Good for you.
The other thing I realized is that 5G, depending on which carrier or which type of 5G you opt for when you're buying the Pixel 5 and 4A 5G, might cost you an extra $100.
Yes.
Which, oi, ridiculous. Verizon's exclusive white collar version is $100 more. So do you really, like, Verizon customers, are you getting a really bad deal? It's requisite disclaimer that Verizon is our parent company and owns us, but has no control over editorial content, which
and has never sent me a free limited edition white phone either.
Well, yeah, not yet. I guess.
Have you got free phones from Verizon? You're not telling me about
free phones. I have like my employee phone, and I have like review units that Verizon will also send. You know what I mean? So it's
Okay. It's the
those
middle
those
ground.
sorts of things. But anyhow, that seems like a huge deal. Like the whole point of these phones is that Google were trying to make 5G a thing, and then you've sacrificed other high-end features. Meanwhile, the 5G version that actually will improve speeds, the millimeter wave ultra wideband version, is going to cost $100 more. Like, then what was the whole point of trying to keep the price down by sacrificing some of these other features?
And
Feels
it's
like kind of a
Yeah,
go
like
ahead.
with it's a running joke that you know way too much about 5G and millimeter wave and the rest of it. But like,
Your
isn't it a bit? Isn't it my running joke? Yeah, but isn't like this all a bit irrelevant until 5G is completely like all encompassing and rolled out everywhere? Like the
yeah, but
benefits aren't that
go ahead.
upfront, are they? At this early
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah, I think that it's also for future proofing. I think there are people who are buying phones now that they want to keep for 2 years. And so in 2 years, hopefully the coverage will be much better. And these phones that you buy today can help you get on those networks and you won't be left behind. I will say if you're like on something like a T-Mobile where they're not using ultra wideband, they're using sub-6, then the difference between gigabit LTE and that is like minimal. It's like a 25% boost and you're not going to really notice 25. You're not there on your clock light. It's not 25% faster this download. You're not. So it might not be as significant. So look, I don't know what everyone else thoughts are on 5G, the Pixel 5 and the Pixel 4a 5G, but if you have something you want to get off your chest, make sure you send your thoughts to podcast@engadget.com.
Yeah, and tell us which one you'd buy. Would you like just buy the 4A, the basic? Would you get the 4A 5G, or would you buy the Pixel 5? If so, why?
Also, what color are you going to get? Probably the green.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I think that's really all we can say so far about the phones before we get them and start testing them ourselves. So stay tuned for our impressions on that. Google also unveiled a new Chromecast with Google TV. Matt, do you watch TV?
Yes, I do watch TV.
Wait,
I watch
there
a lot
are
of
some people
streaming
who
stuff.
don't.
I mean, like you think you can just about see it in the background here. Yes, I have an oversized TV, mostly streaming services because I was born in the 80s. But yeah, like I do have a Chromecast. We'll get to what I use my Chromecast for later on. But I know they sent one to you. You've had a play, haven't you?
Yeah,
You've had a play with the new one.
I've had a play with the new Chromecast and I really like it. First of all, the physical difference is noticeable, right? I mean, before this, I was using a Chromecast, the original Chromecast stick, which was $35 only. And then I also recently kicked my TV over. So I had to I think I broke the original Chromecast. So I had to upgrade to a Chromecast Ultra. And that's like a disc, like a round, like a circle, but that's about 2 inches thick. Anyway, so the new Chromecast is more like a pebble almost with its smooth finish and its kind of rounded shape. And it comes in cute colors. I've got the blue option. There's also like this coral looking color and I think a white. But anyhow, it looks good. It looks very in line with the rest of Google's.
And the new one is $50, right? This new device.
Yeah, and I think that's the same price as the original, as the Chromecast Ultra.
Yeah.
And there's support for 4K, HDR, Dolby Vision, surround sound, all the good stuff you'd expect from a modern streaming player. But the big deal, or the two big deals anyway, with the new Chromecast is Google TV. Have you heard that name before, Matt?
Like once upon a time, many years ago. What, have they brought it back?
Yeah, so 10 years ago.
I get that.
Yeah, you are an 80s kid. 10 years ago, Google launched this thing called Google TV with the Nexus player. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but way back when, Google already used this name. Then Android TV became a thing that it launched a year after it, announced the original Chromecast, which was... So 2013 original Chromecast, 2014 Android TV launched. So Android TV then started to replace Google TV. Well, now it looks like Google TV is going to replace Android TV again. So it's just very confusing for a lot of people who are trying to keep up with what's what. And I will try to explain it all to y'all. Basically, Google TV is this interface that comes with the Chromecast and lets you look at all your different TV shows or your movies across all your different apps like HBO, Hulu, Prime Video, etc., and Netflix. And you get recommendations based on your, what you've seen across all of these different services. as well as like your watch list. You can like save stuff to one combined watch list, despite
that's
right.
useful.
Exactly, across all of these different services, which I really like. And I've been actually using this feature for a while on Play Movies and TV, which has been around for years and years. People just don't know about it. And it sucks because it's a very underrated feature. I'm glad it's getting some attention now. But yeah, so Google TV is this layer that runs on top of the OS, and the OS is going to stick around and be called Android TV still. So that's where the confusion lies. You're not going to see on your TV the words Android TV anymore. You will see the words Google TV, and you'll see this new like layout. But Google's still going to keep the name Android TV around, which like a lot of people are very confused by. I don't know if this bothers you.
This makes no sense. Like,
yeah,
like this is like 17 layers of Google just deciding to have, a bazillion Google Meet video calls and decide how to, make Google's, streaming TV service relevant or interesting in some way. So I don't like why. I don't. It's great, but so hard to care, right? So hard to care about this.
I barely care. I care about what like the user is going to experience, which is like, I mean, the other big thing I kind of mentioned was the new remote control. And this makes people who like you, Matt, have been using a Chromecast and like me know that like you're generally very reliant on your phone if you use a Chromecast or your laptop or whatever you choose. And this makes it like the new interface plus this just makes this whole thing feel more like a smart TV. And for those who already have a smart TV, like you bought a Samsung or a Roku or TCL smart TV with its OS built in, good for you. The rest of us aren't lucky enough to be, and like all I got is a dumb A-word TV that I have an HDMI slot and I've stuck the dongle in, and like it was like living in 2012. So now with the new Chromecast, I feel like I'm living in 2020 at last.
Yes, this is out for sale now, right? As well, I can buy one.
Yep. Do you want to go buy one? It's $50. You can buy it. Yeah, you could buy it at Home Depot last week too.
So what I wanted to come back to is what I use my Chromecast for, actually.
Yes,
please. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the vital specs, or do you think you've covered bases?
If people have questions, if people have questions, they can ask us on the YouTube live chat. We will answer them when we break for a pause later on. But yeah, please tell me what you use your Chromecast for.
So mostly I play Stadia on it. Now, does this play Stadia?
It will support Stadia in the first half of 2021, but some people who've already bought the Chromecast before the announcement were already testing it out with Stadia, and they said it works.
That's such a weird. This is like when they launched Stadia, and it would only work with some Chromecast Ultras. This is very much like a back end thing. Is this just to funnel it so that the service doesn't get overrun, or
I don't? You mean the delay? You mean why there's a delay?
Yeah.
I don't really know either. I think it has something to do with, like you said, how they're getting the processing to happen. I don't know if they have dedicated like something to working on that. I have no idea why there's a delay, but that's a good question. I might ask Google after.
Yeah, like I can't understand the delay, but like, if they had enough meetings to relabel Android TV as Google TV, then they probably have a good reason for delaying Stadia on their brand new streaming device.
Yeah,
makes no sense.
I know. Anyway, so stay tuned for our deeper review on that. But if you already want some pretty detailed impressions, my hands-on is up on Engadget.com. Just kind of my experience after 2 days with this thing. Let us know. So last thing that Google unveiled yesterday, well, I guess it was the last thing, were new speakers, which we were expecting. And I think the big surprise there is the name is Nest Audio. No longer are we going to use the Google Home brand for their speakers, Nest Audio. And there's a big focus, as you can tell from the name, that audio quality is their whole thing now. Matt, what speaker do you use?
What speaker do I use? I am afraid to say ones in case they pick up that I'm talking at them. I have
use another name for it.
Yeah, I have 2 HomePods, Apple HomePods. One in the bedroom, one in, I guess, the lounge. It's kind of an all-in-one apartment here. Then I have a Google Mini, Google Home Mini. I think, to use the right terms. The Coral one, which is beautiful, in my bedroom as well. And then I have a Google Home Hub in my kitchen. And then I think my Sonos does. I'm looking around the room if you hear my audio fade in and out. I think I have my Sonos does smart assistant nonsense as well. So yeah, all of them apart from Amazon Alexa.
So you've got a very good, you've got a good setup. I'm the non-Apple end of that conversation where I have all the things you just said, minus Sonos, but I have Amazon's Echo speaker. So what is your preferred? Like, what do you think in terms of music quality? What would you play music on? Let's say take the Sonos out of the equation, though.
Yeah, definitely the HomePod, which makes sense. It costs so much more than the others, but definitely the HomePod. Like, I used to have both of them set up like side by side to my TV and playing music then in stereo mode. It just sounded absolutely incredible. I had the Max, the Nest Home Max, I think that was called, the big smart speaker, and that sounded no, not the big screen one. The one that was just a beefy speaker.
The Google Home.
Yeah, Home Max. Yeah. Now that sounded great as well. That was very impressive. Yeah, like I have smart speaker malaise now. Like they don't do enough, do they? Like I think the main aim is, what do you want it for? Like, if you want decent audio quality, use that to specify which speaker you buy. But the other ones, like these minis, like the Nest Mini, that will suffice for 90% of your smart home tasks and what you want from a smart assistant.
Yeah. I think for me, we were talking on the live stream yesterday after the Google event that I have both the Amazon Echo and the Home, and I generally prefer I can't say the word, the hot word in case my assistant wakes up and tries to ask me what I want. Anyway, the Echo has somehow better music quality, I think, than my Google Home. But so I am excited to see what Nest Audio will deliver. I mean, they've improved some of the drivers in the subwoofers, and also Google uses some pretty good software to tune the music output like it did on the Nest Mini.
Can you say subwoofer again, please?
Subwoofer? Why?
You said subwoofer.
What? Look, we know my accent's all over the place because I'm from all over the world. It's fine. But anyway, so
sorry.
But no, it's okay. The thing about the Nest Audio is it comes in at $99. It sounds like it's going to provide music quality that Mark Ronson was very on board with, by the way, apparently. So I am excited to hear it for myself. I just don't think that I can say much until I have these to test. And
yeah, this is the curse of all of these remote events, right? Unless you we got the Chromecast at least to play with ahead of time. But yeah, without testing, there isn't much to say that we're not parroting from either our own experience or the press release. One other thing I want to add about the Nest Audio is, like the Apple's HomePods, you are able to pair them, right? So you can make up a little stereo pair to make them sound even better. And that would be $200 all in then for like a stereo audio setup, which isn't bad.
Yeah. It's not bad at all. So really the crucial thing now would be to see what kind of quality you're getting for that price, right? For the stereo pairing and the $200. Is it Sonos level? I don't know. Is it Sony level? I don't know either. The other thing that Google demoed during its event too was like this big stage setup where they had different speakers peppered around the space. And then this music artist just walking around saying, yo, assistant, play the music on this speaker instead, play on that speaker instead. Like it made it seem like it was moving along with him, even though it was really hard to tell on video, like if the music really was playing through like a specific speaker. But this multi-room audio idea is something that Google has talked about before, and it seems like they're going to try to find a way to make all your speakers that are Google powered play at the same time to give you this really immersive experience. Does that sound like a nightmare to you, Matt, or like?
Actually, it sounds ideal because, like I said, like I have I've only got like 4 rooms in my apartment, but like I have
4 rooms.
Well, I'm including like the corridor room that goes from the bathroom to. Yeah, such luxury. Anyway, the point is, I have a Google device in my bedroom and I have a Google device in my lounge, living, dining, kitchen room. So it would be kind of cool to because I do have to kind of bark orders to turn off lights and turn off speakers.
Right.
Like whatever this kind of room-based detection is, if it could also switch off lights, that would be pretty cool.
That's the thing, is that it doesn't seem like they're sensing where you're at in the space just yet. It seems like you still have to shout commands at the speaker to get it to like play on the next one, or now I'm in my bedroom, play it
That's
here.
what I'm doing now. That's
I
dumb.
know. I don't know. I don't know yet. Maybe they'll have more details to share on how that works. But it would be super cool if they were able to sense your presence and just like turn on the music wherever you walk and turn on your lights, right? That's like smart home goals.
Yeah, very much so. Like, it seems like I'm absolutely dogging on Google and everything they've announced.
You're not alone. I think that the grand recap of the overall event is that a lot of people on our live stream seemed to leave disappointed. Nobody on our live stream, which tends to be a lot of like gadget hardcore fans anyway, none of them were impressed by the smart home stuff, and none of them liked the Pixel 5. Except for a few who pre-ordered already, and they were going to pre-order regardless anyway.
Yeah, irrespective of whatever they announced. Yeah, I think maybe the problem is that the 4A was already announced and kind of stole a lot of the thunder here. Like, I'm going to talk about it later on this podcast, but it's a great it's a great phone. Sure, it's a bit boring in black, but like the capability and how it looks like a next gen phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's edge-to-edge screen, pinhole camera, incredible cameras on the back. And you get all that with the 4A 5G and the 5, but you have to pay a lot more money to do that.
I agree. I mean, I think Google shot itself in the foot a little bit by releasing the 4A 5G in tandem with the 5, because then now it's like, what do you pick? Overall, though, it seems like everyone's biggest compliment to Google for the event was how short it was.
Yes.
Everyone was like 30 minutes, yay, bye. Which I don't know if it's a bad sign, but
I think it's indicative of all these remote press conferences we've seen and had to sit through. Like, Samsung's pretty guilty of it. Apple's pretty guilty of it.
Yes. Google did tell me ahead of the launch that this was going to be short, sweet, and they know that no one wants to. They've listened to feedback that no one wants to sit through long things like that anymore. So I think they kept it short for a reason. But despite still keeping it short, they were able to squeeze in a long rap about all the channels you get on YouTube Live, which I found truly impressive. Like, my jaw dropped as they did that rap. It was fun to watch, I guess.
I mean, producer Ben, can we cut in some of that for the podcast?
I think I might be able to, yeah.
Yes, awesome. So, I haven't listened to that, so I'll listen along to the podcast.
So maybe, there's I'll say a line here to cue it up. So, so here it is for those of you who haven't heard it. This is that YouTube rap. All right, so we can chime in after that. I liked it. I thought it was pretty clever, but it was a good beat. But anyway, so there you have it. It's like the main takeaway from the Google event was that short and sweet rap, and then ultimately the products were kind of just expected.
Yeah. So let's move on to something much more immediate.
Microsoft. We might take a break to talk to the live stream audience.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea. So yes, we're talking to the chat now. Chat, it's been pretty active already, but if you want to ask any questions about stuff we've been talking about already, this is the time. So one question says, does the Chromecast remote work with older models? Do you know anything about that?
No, it does not. Sorry.
Yeah, it really seemed like that.
My sense is that, first of all, the older models don't have the Google TV interface, although they did say it sounded like it might be rolling out to older TVs. I'm not sure if it's rolling out to older Chromecasts. From what I understand, the older Chromecasts don't have the processor power required to run this interface because they have a new processor in the new Chromecast just for the UI.
Yeah, all it knows is talk with phone, mirror phone, eat hot chip, and lie.
More or less.
Cool.
That was stupid. Anyway, is there any word on what the trade-in value for a 4A? Like, let's say it's not 4A 5G. If you want to trade in a 4A, would you be able to trade it in against a 4A 5G or a 5, and what would the value be? Is there any information on that?
No, Google hasn't announced anything like that yet. Like, they don't really do trade-ins like last time, like a proper internal, Google-centric trade-ins.
And also not the way both Apple and Samsung have trade-in programs. I don't think they're as explicit, but I will say that I'm looking at the 4A purchasing page right now, and it does say you can trade in your old phone for some credit. I just don't know that the 4A being such a new phone is going to be like accepted just yet. I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to trade in your 4A for a 4A 5G? I guess that's a good idea.
I mean, that's what we were talking about a little while ago of like, if you'd really jumped on the 4A when it originally came out just a couple of months ago, do you feel buyer's remorse now that the 4A 5G is out?
I mean, personally, I wouldn't feel the remorse just because it's $150 more. You're getting really 5G and that extra ultra wide camera, but not everyone wants that. Maybe people are already happy with their Pixel 4a, but I don't know. The YouTube people, do they agree?
I mean, we're getting one question about whether or not to upgrade from Pixel 3a, and I think the answer is yes, but the experts can weigh in.
Interesting. I think you're fine to stay with the 3A. What you're getting with the 4A, unless you're going to the 4A 5G, is a bigger screen, right? And a generally bigger phone. Like the camera doesn't change much. Still
the camera hasn't changed much, but that new look, that full screen OLED on the front, exactly. I think it's a fresh feeling. So if you want to just feel like you have a phone that's from 2020, maybe that is a good upgrade. What else is? I mean, battery life, depending on if you have the 3A or the 3A XL. If you have the 3A, yeah, get the 4A because the battery is just better.
Really, like I was not a fan of the 3A XL, but I'm diverting.
The XL might be okay. Like it has a bigger size, so it probably has a bigger battery, but it's still not great in terms of battery.
So while we were talking, I was doing some research on Google trade-ins. Then I got sidetracked. I've just bought myself a Pixel 4a case. So
I'm very proud of you.
They're gorgeous. Have you not seen these Pixel? You know these Pixel cases, the official
the fabric ones. I love them. I love them.
I've got one for every Pixel I've owned. Like they're so cute. They're brilliant.
I not only am I like, because I'm in touch with Google, so I have access to a lot of these devices, which I understand is very unfair, and I am privileged. But also, Google also does programs. If you like sign up for some of their like, I think I'm a Google Maps like advisor tour guide type of thing for the public, and then they send you free cases out of that program too. What? So I have never don't wait because in the UK maybe
not. Maybe not a thing in the UK.
Here's another tip, by the way, for anyone that's like big on Google. If you use the Google Opinions or the survey and feedback app on your phone, they give you money just for answering surveys. Like I have $8 saved up on that because I know. Right here.
A whole $8, baby.
I know, but I use that for movies and that sort of stuff that I can buy on Play Movies and TV too, or games and apps. So there's a tip for y'all. Sorry, more questions.
Yeah, there was one about like why isn't the 4A 5G waterproof? What's up with the lack of IPX certification?
My suspicion is that because that one has a headphone jack, they weren't able to find a way to completely cover it. But I will go to Google for official explanation. I also think that I think that that's the main reason. I don't think that they kept IP away from the 4A models just to differentiate between the 5 and the 4A series. I suspect it's the headphone jack.
And then Wilso in the chat just said like 4A and 4A 5G are way too similar. They really should have added something like 90 hertz to the 4A 5G and 120 to the Pixel 5, which is valid. Totally valid.
Very valid. Yeah. I wonder though if the 120 hertz screen might just be too expensive for them to include in like the bill of materials, because that's definitely a very expensive like component, and they probably wouldn't have been able to keep the Pixel 5 to $699 if they wanted to include that. And in that case, I think Google just was like, well, we'd rather give you a cheaper phone than a smoother screen.
Yeah. And then there was one thing while we're, if there's nothing else that we have to say about Pixels, there was a question about whether or not Dolby Atmos is supported on this new Chromecast.
I don't think specifically Atmos, but surround sound is. If Dolby Atmos was like support it. I think we would have seen it in the language and branding by now, but we only saw Dolby Vision support, and I don't think that that's like a package that comes together with Atmos.
Do you know if that's something that could be updated onto the device after the fact with like a firmware update or something?
It could be, but it's hard to say because I think Dolby Atmos also has to depend on like the speaker setup, and that's based on your equipment, right? You buy the speaker that you use your Chromecast on. So I suspect that there's more in the process there than just a firmware update. I'm also like, I finally opened the chat to take a look and want to say like hi to all the familiar names always. X OS's digital for I think Gabriel was a familiar name, but like hello to everyone that's leaving nice comments.
And Adil, I think, said something interesting. He said that I think the stock Android on Pixel devices should be more optimized for UI because of the comparison to other layers for Android, like Oxygen OS. Is that MIUI or do you pronounce
MIUI,
it as a
MIUI?
MIUI.
MIUI 12 just feels ugly and bad.
It's more like what you're used to. For me, I'm used to the Pixel UI, so I think MIUI looks ugly and bad. You know what I mean? Like it's really different. It's also like a very personal thing. Oxygen OS definitely like feels really clean and fast.
Yeah.
You got it on the OnePlus Nord, right, Matt?
Yeah, I was going to say like that's the only one I kind of rate as anything decent is the Oxygen one. But it's all personal preference, this stuff, you know. Like they're all so unified now, and Android is just so much better than it was, say, 3 years ago. Like it's you know it's whatever you're used to and what you're liking, and you know you're a Pixel woman, so you're used to kind of the stock Google experience, right?
Exactly. I love the Pixel look and some of the things they bake in, but ultimately, and I've said this with other friends in the tech space too, that like Android finally is at a point where like it's similar across the board. You know, even Samsung's One UI feels familiar to a Pixel user like me. So that's a great thing. You don't have to relearn things.
And then one question from Kalo. Matt owns multiple speakers from different brands. Can you play music from all of them at once? Can you do anything to like network them? I think is the question.
I don't think now. I mean, like, can you? Yeah.
I mean, I can. No, I do AirPlay from my phone to my Sonos bar. I think I have the Beam, then my HomePod. Other things I do to sync them all. I've just realized I've left my fridge open, so maybe when there's a toilet break, I need to close my fridge.
Oh no! Like go close the fridge.
Go close my fridge. Be right back.
I had a similar situation where like yesterday's event was when I realized that I had left a bag of grapes sitting on my counter overnight instead of putting it in the fridge. So
we're doing it live, people. Doing it live.
Behind the scenes, I have to say, okay, Matt. I think this might be the first time I'm seeing your blue wall.
Yeah. So normally I do my video the other side of the room, I think. What do you think?
I like it. It's a little deeper than I thought. It's just for everyone's Matt and we're all friends on Engadget, and Matt was showing me swatches of color to pick for the wall, and I think this looks a little darker than the ones you showed me. I like it though.
Thank you. I've been checking out everyone else that lives in this apartment block, and no one's painted their walls. They're all keeping it white as if, I don't know. Boring. They're boring.
Have fun with your fancy, colorful wall. Painted a Google color. Painted a Google color like the
green.
I love that.
Yeah.
Ooh, sage green. Ooh, give it like green stripes.
I might go sage green in my bedroom, but this has nothing to do really with the Engadget podcast.
Absolutely nothing at all.
So before we move off of this and go to Microsoft stuff, now that like 4A 5G is another entry into kind of the mid-level phone space, can we do like a quick power ranking, like top 3 or 4? Is the 4A and or 4A 5G still number 1, do you think?
Having not tested the 4A 5G or the 5 yet, it's hard to say. I think the 4A though, it's very hard to beat for the price. It's very hard to beat. Like you have to think about what you're saving and getting for that money. So I think that the 4A is still the best phone in that class of under $400. The OnePlus Nord has a lot of good features too for $400. So I don't know if Matt, you have a different feeling about this.
I'd still probably go with the 4A. It was a bit. I think the 4A came out just after the Nord did in the UK, so it was kind of frustrating not being able to compare the two side by side. But I just swear by the Pixel camera tech. I think even with the OnePlus, it has a lot more. It's a lot more versatile, sure, but there's something incredibly reliable about the photos you take on a Pixel phone. That's very hard to beat at that price.
Exactly.
And then rounding out the top three, what do you think?
The S20 FE is not the same price range, but I think that that's what everyone's kind of looking to as a comparison for the Pixel 5 or the 4A 5G. I have one. I haven't spent a lot of time with it yet. And even that was like people were angry at Samsung for the S20 FE being so confusing in its lineup. But it seems like for the price and in the space, it's got a lot of good features that you might want. I don't know if Matt, in the UK, you have a lot more options. Maybe you have a different recommendation.
Yeah, but I kind of stick to the players that can reliably do so. Like I know Nokia's pretty strong, Motorola is here as well. It's kind of harder to mess up, and then let alone Xiaomi. I'm thinking of some other devices.
Oppo, Vivo.
Oppo as well. They just they literally announced today some 5G versions of the Reno series, and they're all amazingly specced out devices for the price. Like you'd be amazed. You know, it's like $300 less than a flagship Samsung phone, and yeah, just incredible. You know, chunks of tech all come together at a really cheap price.
Yeah, it's hard. Yep.
Okay, let's move on to Microsoft Surfaces. This very cute laptop Go. I want to hear more about it.
All right. So for those on the live stream, we're going to go back to recording the podcast, and we'll be back to answer your questions after we're done with this next segment. Matt, you were about to take it away on the Surfaces very smoothly. You want to do that again?
I mean, I remember what I'm doing. Oh yeah, I can say something.
Yeah.
And like Ben's like, no, put the brakes on it. It's too smooth a segue. Let's do it again.
Yeah, if you want me to do it too, I can handle. But I figured since you already had something lined up. Yes.
Okay, so enough about Google. Let's talk about some even more immediate news. Just this morning, today's Thursday, Microsoft announced a handful of new updates.
Yeah, it is. It was like, great job, Microsoft. We didn't need extra news this week, but thank you. However, the good news is these things seem very straightforward. There's nothing too complex here. There's a new Surface Laptop Go, which is adorable. And then the Surface Pro X got a new processor. That's the high-level overview. I mean, there's also some new accessories that you can check out Engadget.com for all the details on. But yeah, Matt, what are you thinking? I know you're not. I don't think you're a PC user, are you?
No, it's about time I kind of got back into it. But I'd like for you to help me out here. How do I separate the Surface Laptop Go from the Surface Go 2 or even the Surface Go?
Yes.
What's the difference here?
Here you go. The Surface Surface as a line are tablets first. They're the ones with the kickstands built in, right? So the Surface Laptop is that clamshell, that like with the keyboard attached sort of style. So the Surface Go was that 10-inch cute tiny little tablet with a very kind of weak processor to start off with, but it's super affordable and also even cuter than the Laptop Go. The Surface Laptop Go is like the mini version of the Surface Laptop 3. And it's got, instead of the 13-inch and 15-inch models that the Laptop 3 is available in, you'll have this 12.4-inch screen. So it's very reminiscent of, remember the baby MacBook, the 12-inch MacBook that recently got?
The original like MacBook plain, no Air, no Pro.
Yeah, exactly. No additional word at the end of its name. The really that I bought, the only MacBook that I ever bought for myself.
There you go.
It's more or less the same as that. And also I think the MateBook 13. But anyway, so it's really cute. And it comes in two new colors. One of them is this ice blue is the name for it, but it's just this really pretty, almost pastel blue. And then there's also this like copperish, goldish color, and I can't remember the exact name for it, but it's also attractive. So it's just an option, I think, that's good for someone that doesn't want something too big or powerful. And it starts at $549, which for a Surface laptop,
Wow. Yeah.
at all. For that price, you're getting a 10th generation Intel Core i5 to start with, and I mean, like the full details, like how much RAM you can go up to 16 gigs of RAM, but obviously that'll cost more. 256 gigs of storage will also cost you more. But I mean, this is a nice introduction to what Microsoft's Surface laptops can offer. And I've recommended the Surface laptops in general as an alternative to the Dell XPS line for a while. Devendra's always like, anytime you ask Devendra what PC to get, Devendra's like, XPS, this and that.
XPS.
XPS.
Yeah.
Devendra XPS hardware. But I'm like, look, not everyone wants to get an XPS. Sometimes someone wants something with a different look. And this, I think, the laptop Go with its new colors and this cute little size that the XPS line doesn't have offers like another option for someone looking for something a bit different.
I mean, like I'm reading Devendra's up now, new laptop Go, and he's like, it's still not as, the bezels aren't as thin as the Dell's XPS 13. I'm like, give it up, Devendra. We get it, okay? We get it. I mean, he's not wrong, but also this is a $550 laptop. This isn't a $1,000 notebook.
Exactly.
Oh, God. Does not let up, does he?
The bezels are indeed not as thin, but they're pretty thin. And looking at the pictures, we haven't touched these devices or seen them in person, so I'm only really going off of videos and pictures that Microsoft has sent. But they're not the chunky bezels from years past. These look modern. Have a 3:2 aspect ratio, and Microsoft's Pixel Sense screen has been good. Now, the one concern for laptops that are that small in general is that their keyboards are usually not up to par. And I don't know how much time you've spent with like a MacBook 12-inch keyboard, Matt. They were pretty terrible. But Microsoft is like, we have a full-size keyboard and we've got like a big trackpad. So it'll be nice to see like what the keyboard experience is on the Surface Laptop Go being so small.
Yeah, can I just say, Cherlynn, that was an incredibly comprehensive walk through everything. I'm very impressed.
I mean, I still have one last thing to tell you about. I left one thing out, which is
let me put my chin on both my hands then. Tell me more.
Yes. For that size also, right? Another concern is battery life. But Microsoft is promising like up to 13 hours of juice on this thing. So I have to see it in person, see how chunky, heavy, and how sizey this thing is.
How sizey is it? That's a great question.
So it's a good game to play in our downtime anyway. But yes, the potential for this device to be really good is there. I want to check it out as soon as possible. And yeah, $549, a great starting price. Almost like half, slightly more than half of the Surface Laptop 3 starting price.
Could you say it's the Pixel 4a of Windows laptop?
I can't say that yet because I haven't tested it, but it might be. Wow, that's a very good like analogy for the really hardcore tech nerds.
Yeah, like
imagine if I wrote it in my review. Right. If I wrote that in my review and someone like my neighbor reads it, they're like, what is the Pixel 4a?
Yeah. Well, it's Engadget readers. They know these things.
Engadget readers are smarter than the average.
Yeah.
I don't mean smarter. I mean more informed. Anyhow, that wasn't the only thing that Microsoft announced. It also announced new updates to the Surface Pro X, which, Matt, I don't know if you recall. Do you recall what that thing was?
No. I'll be honest. No.
The Surface Pro X was introduced last year. It was Microsoft's own Windows on Snapdragon thing, like a convertible. So
yes.
Yeah. The hardware is incredible. It's super thin. It's really premium. It looks really good. It's got a nice screen. Uses the original version used Microsoft's SQ1 chipset, which it created in collaboration with Qualcomm. And this year, with today's news, Microsoft is saying, hey, we have a new chip. It's the SQ2. And they're not really sharing exactly what the differences are between the SQ1 and the SQ2. But if it's anything to go on, like if Qualcomm's own generational chipset upgrades are anything to go on, I don't think there's that much of a speed difference in terms of the processor. But yeah, that's the main, I think, big news out of the Surface Pro X, that a new configuration is available with the SQ2 chipset. You can get all the details once again on Engadget.com. I have a write-up. But also the other new thing with the Surface Pro X is a new color option. Hey, silver.
All about the color options.
It's all about the colors this year. The silvery platinum finish is the new default, like one of the new colors you can get the tablet itself in. So there's two options now, the black or the silver platinum thing. And then the signature keyboard cover now comes in that same sky ice blue that I really like, as well as the red and the standard black. So those are the new things. I mean, some of the other features are like software based, and Windows on ARM is struggling, but I don't. Have you had any experience with Windows on ARM devices, Matt?
No, I've never heard anything good about it, so I try to avoid it when possible. But yeah,
I mean,
it's just not there yet.
It's not.
Sorry?
It's not. Your main driver laptop is an Apple, right?
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. So I think it's an interesting device. ARM-based PCs, I used to be super excited for them. I still am hopeful that they'll do good. I want to see what Microsoft was able to do with its own chip. Maybe it was different from the 8CX Gen 2 in some way, and that there actually are speed differences. But again, I'll need to take it to real world testing to know. But they've also bumped up the battery life estimate from 13 hours to 15 hours. So, that's nice to see. Maybe that's what the processor improvement is. So, y'all, tell me if you're excited for this thing, because it's hard to be excited anymore when Windows on ARM still needs so much work. All right, so do we want to just take a break to answer questions, or do you want to just seamless transition to iOS 14 review?
Maybe can you do just another line or so, buttoning up the Windows on ARM section?
Yeah, or I can talk about actually the other accessories and just be like, there's still more news, but they're not that noteworthy.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay, ready?
Yep.
So, in addition to the Laptop Go and the updated processor and options for the Surface Pro X, which by the way still starts at that $999 price, Microsoft also unveiled new ergonomic mouse, modern mouse, a display adapter, and some new keyboard things. Check out all the details on Engadget.com. But really, overall, it just feels like it wasn't even a big enough set of news for Microsoft to do an event. They just dumped it on us out of nowhere. So I guess I'm kind of glad for the reprieve.
Thank you.
All right. Should we do a chat segment? Are there
maybe just a little one? Yes, Thea, we are reading the comments. Hello. If you are just joining us, we're reading the chat comments in between segments. We're trying to make sure that the people who just listen to the podcast don't feel left out, because that would be sad.
Hi to Theo. Hi to Dominic Go, who says they're going to definitely subscribe to this podcast on Overcast later. Thank you. Oh my gosh, yes.
Because they love your accents. That
is super weird, but Matt's is typical.
That comment made me think, oh man, I'm gonna do something interesting with the subwoofer thing that you said. I'm gonna do a little sound design. I've been wanting to do some creative audio work.
This word, okay, Matt. How do you pronounce WANDER?
Wander.
Say that again?
Wander,
right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I was told by someone who was teaching me something that I was pronouncing that word wrong, because Americans, apparently y'all pronounce it with this hidden U, like wonder, versus wonder, which is WONDER. So it's like wonder.
Wonder.
And I was like, the person teaching me was like, these are the two words and this is how you pronounce it. I was like, I do not hear a difference. And I was so
such a niche difference. I
was, and then one of my friends at school way back when I first came to New York, I said the name Alan. I still trip on that name, like ALAN. How do you pronounce that, Matt?
Alan, but I'm British, so it's all flat. We don't add R's and Y's when we get bored.
Ellen, which is ELLEN. So
Alan, yeah. Alan.
I don't even
feel like whoever praised our accents has now unsubscribed.
Okay, but let's be let's be clear here. Cherlynn also speaks, I think, like 300% more languages than either Matt or I speak. So,
Well, I speak Japanese to a decent level.
oh really?
Yes,
Basically fluent.
I can get along. Okay, that's why me and Cherlynn get along. We have like passive aggro kanji debates.
We have a lot of kanji conversations. Yet this
Yeah.
is what that word means in Chinese, and that.
Well, actually, in Japan, it means sun.
So yes, it's very fun to be like Chinese words with Matt Smith. That's our new podcast, Chinese words.
Engadget podcast spin-off number 32.
Yes.
Yeah. Not as interesting as Matt's feet.
Matt's feet, no, that's still in production at the moment.
So Gabriel says, listening to you on Overcast is awesome, but asking questions or leaving comments that come up in the chat in real time is really fantastic. So thanks, Gabriel. And Theo says, where are you guys from? I thought you guys were all from America. So since I'm talking, since I'm talking, I'll go first. I am like lifelong inside the New York City event horizon. I grew up right outside of New York City, and I'm afraid that my accent is setting in. Like I wanted to move out of the area before the accent really settled in, but I'm afraid that that's happened. And Matt, so where are you based? Where are you from?
Yeah, so I was born in the north of England, in Chester. Then I actually lived in Wales, which is technically a different country, for the first few years of my life. And then I was pretty much raised on the south coast of the UK, near cities called Portsmouth and Southampton. The originals, not the cheap American copies. And yeah, I was mostly raised in the UK. And then, as you can tell from what we just said earlier, I've lived in Japan once or twice. Well, twice. I did 3 year stints in Japan, 3 in a city called Sendai, where I did what all white men that go to Japan do. I taught English. Then I came back to the UK. I turned around 3 times, turned into a journalist, and then went back again, this time to Tokyo, as an Engadget editor, and was Engadget's man in Japan for 3 years.
That's cool. I didn't know that part. And then
I'm from Singapore. I think longtime listeners know I like to talk about how some things in Singapore we get really right and some things we don't. So go back to the old episodes for that. But also, if you want to hear the way I normally speak with my Singaporean,
yeah, that was a few episodes ago.
I cannot use my Singapore accent with all these like American white people, but I am going to try because otherwise you all don't know that I'm actually really
racist. I'm not even American. You just called me American.
Oh, actually, yeah. Sorry, paise. I meant like white people, angmos, as we like to call it. But yeah. Anyway, that's my usual accent. That's my Singaporean accent that I always use when I'm at home and with my friends. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Matt like has Singaporean friends too, so I think you like actually know the accent. Like
it's funny because there's such like an air of like I don't care what anyone else is saying, but this is my story, and that's what I love about it. It's just like I'm going to keep talking and talking and talking. Then you don't know when I'm going to end because my inflection will go up. But now I've ended. Now it's your turn to talk.
No, the Singaporean style of talking is super different because like we really don't give a crap. I almost said a different word. We really don't give a like crap about pronouncing every little letter in every word. It's just, I today very hungry leh. Like it's just it's like, hey, why you like that one? You know, like we don't even use proper grammar in actual anyway. We did get some legit questions throughout on the chat. Someone asked if you can use USB-C to charge the laptop Go. It has a Microsoft Surface connector, if I'm not wrong. Actually, that's the Pro X. Let me double check the laptop Go, but I can get it to you. But the answer should probably be on Engadget.com as well.
Okay. And so while Cherlynn's checking that, Matt, I know that you play video games also. I've been thinking about this thing related to video games, so I'm trying to get a video game opinion.
Okay.
So do you usually have you played any of the games that are traditionally considered, competitive? Like Overwatch or any of those.
Yeah, so I play Overwatch. Overwatch is a dirty casual on my PlayStation 4. Yeah.
So like I've been playing Overwatch, like a lot of Overwatch on the Switch for the last few months. Like it's it along with TikTok and just trying to keep my head out of the news are the 3 legs of the stool keeping me sane in this pandemic quarantine. Overwatch is like the big beefy leg though. And like last night I was playing and I just heard Devindra in my head. Like, why would you be playing Overwatch on the Switch? You know, like you could just get like such
imagine him
higher
saying
like video
Yes.
video quality, render quality. And then after that I remembered that actually it may not be so much a thing now, but in the past, pro gamers have actually turned their video settings down a little bit so they get a frame rate boost, or just so you aren't distracted by extra animations. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm not missing that much because I am staying competitive in Switch Overwatch.
Interesting, because and I hate to do this to you, Ben, but I actually agree with Devindra. And you know I hate to do it, and you know I hate to do it. But like Switch Overwatch, it's just like I think the frame rate is just too low. Like, I mean, I'm not playing on PC. I'm not using a mouse or anything, and I've got Overwatch Switch as well. But it's just a little bit too. It hurts my eyes. Just the frame rate and the kind of there's a lack of fluidity, I think, compared to the main consoles and the PC versions. I get what you're saying though about reducing the kind of vividness of a video game, so it's not so aggressive to play and you feel like you're in the zone a bit more. Do you use the kind of gesture tracking aim and stuff?
No, I try to do like manual aim.
Yeah, I've heard like the gesture tracking aim is pretty good once you get used to it. But yeah, I also it didn't really quite click with me, so I just played it. And I mean, I came off like 2 years of playing it on the PlayStation 4, so yeah, controller Overwatch makes more sense to me. But it's still a lot of fun, and like the core benefits of Overwatch aren't about precision and headshots. So I mean, some characters they are, yeah. But the reason I loved Overwatch is because you can play that game and not be a crack shot and still have a huge effect on the game.
Yeah. I mean, I like how you can feel like either a hero or a zero for like 5 minutes, and then you're on to the next game. Of course, now we're getting questions about Overwatch characters, but I think Cherlynn
can I please? Yeah, we.
So.
Thank the mini Overwatch chat segment, but let me quickly address the ARM PC questions. So Bri10 asked if ARM PCs can ever replace traditional x64 or x86 PCs. So far, they look like made for specialized use cases with high prices. I think you're absolutely right. They are pretty specialized. The focus is on long battery life and connectivity. So the price is also very high because I think Qualcomm's chipsets are a little bit more expensive just for these specific machines. So I think you have a very good point there. Brody mentions that they were disappointed there was no news on the Surface Neo. Yeah, we were too. We were like, where's the Neo news? But they're probably not ready. I think they're still taking in the lessons they've learned from the Surface Duo and then applying that. The Santino Fantila, I think, asks if this is Microsoft's answer to Chromebooks. Not really. Microsoft has had a line of laptops called like Stream, I think. HP Stream, I remember, was a laptop. Basically, they've made like cheaper Windows 10 machines in the past. Those were the ones that were meant to sort of, square off against the Chromebooks, but ARM base is just a very different. It could take on Chromebooks, but they're not yet cheap enough to take on Chromebooks. Chromebooks are a lot cheaper.
And I mean, it's already, just to follow up on that, like Surface Neo stuff, like there was a report, I think like spring, you know how this year is just blurred, but there was a report that some Microsoft execs said they were pushing Windows 10X and Surface Neo back until 2021. So yeah, probably going to be next year when you hear some major Surface Neo news or some Neo Surface Neo news.
Yeah, I agree because I mean, production, like assembly lines have been so affected by COVID too. They need to have that device ready for production as well if they're ready to introduce it to the world this time. So there's a lot of things in the mix. Then as for everyone else that's surprised or commenting on like being from the same place as we are, yeah, we love that. Someone's Kalo said Tristan is a word people pronounce differently too. Is that true? Tristan's a name. My bad. Tristan. How do you pronounce Tristan?
Yeah, and like the best thing about having lots of people from lots of different places is usually the Chinese comments just get no love. Like nobody pays attention to them. There's always random Chinese comments on live streams. But no, with Cherlynn, she's like, oh yes, hello. And like we'll read the comment in Chinese and answer it in Chinese. And like, isn't that what the internet is actually about?
And we have Matt Smith, so if you want to leave comments in, hiragana or katakana, and he's going to be able to read it and talk to you about it.
Embarrassingly, maybe.
Maybe,
I
yeah.
mean, I can handle the kanji. I can also basically read hiragana, but hiragana, I don't know the pronunciation anymore. But katakana, I cannot.
Hiragana is pronounced Tristan.
I think I know the Japanese pronunciation hiragana, but I think anyway. But anyway, I learned Japanese a while ago, and Dark Paladin is like, what? Yes, I am Singaporean. Hi, and yeah, people speaking. Dominic says they only speak 2 languages. I can't tell you how many languages I speak because I might lose count.
Humble brag.
Yeah,
I know your German and your Spanish is atrocious.
My Spanish is much better now because I've actually been learning, but my German was terrible because my friends gave up teaching me. They were like, we can't teach you only the vulgar words. You got to learn actual words. I was like, no.
Okay, I think one more comment before we move on to iOS.
Konnichiwa there from Harvey Kun.
Konnichiwa.
Ni hao from China.
So Gabriel says that it's quite satisfying to see Microsoft pushing a cohesive ecosystem with its hardware. He was going through the accessories, and there's some hardware he'd want to buy. Like the Surface aesthetic is clean, which is like absolutely.
Yes, I fully agree. That's a very good point. And Microsoft has done a good job with its accessories too, and it's starting to build out a proper hardware ecosystem with the Surface earbuds and the headphones and like all of that other stuff. So, good point.
One final. Can I just put a pin? Just finalize the Overwatch on Switch chat.
Oh God!
Apex Legends is coming to Switch.
Oh my God! Are you serious? I've been looking forward to that. I was hoping for that for a while.
And they announced it EA Play, but yeah, it's genuinely happening with crossplay this fall.
I'm stoked on that. I was wondering
I know
whether
what
or not
you wanted. I know the hot content you need, Ben. I know what it is.
Okay, well, speaking of hot content, I really want to talk about all of the different iOS aesthetics.
There we go.
I think this is so interesting because iOS is like super auteur about their aesthetic. So let's get into Matt's iOS review. So Matt, why don't you lead off that segment?
Well, how can I segue from Microsoft to iOS?
I can talk about it if you want.
Because I mean, we have those sound effect buttons, and so you can.
Or I can just ask Matt what he's been working on, or I can just throw it and be like, "Yo, you reviewed iOS 14 for us. What's your like? What should we know, or something like that?"
Yeah, that works. That works for me.
Okay,
let's do that. So this week, Matt, your review of iOS 14 went up on Engadget.com. What do you feel overall about this new update?
I think it's pretty refreshing. Like, I don't know, when it comes to testing out an iOS update, right? Like, it's hard to derive exactly what changes between all the numbers, unless it's like, remember when they got rid of the home button? It was kind of, game changing and that kind of thing. Yeah, huge differences. The last couple of years, it hasn't really been that kind of thing. Like, they've just been refining, honing, making it all work like, it should. But yeah, iOS 14, well, to be honest, Cherlynn, you're an Android fangirl. It gives you everything you might want or need on iOS. Like, it gives you so many features that we've had on Android for years. Like, off the top of my head, like picture-in-picture video, widgets, like an app drawer of a sorts, just the kind of eminently useful features that we haven't seen in iOS, and now they're here.
Yes. Absolutely. I mean, the main thing I think that people have been experiencing that's new with iOS 14 are these like new widgets and allowing you to customize your home screens more freely or have more options to. And people have been posting guides on how to do that on iOS 14 all over the internet, on TikTok or on Twitter that I've seen. And yeah, the other thing I've been seeing pop up on my Twitter timelines is everyone showing off their iOS 14 home screen aesthetic. Which like I will say we've had these on Android for a while, and honestly I feel like generally cycled back to like standard home screen with icons and not a lot of real widgets, but that depends. Maybe power users still have them. Anyway, it's fun to see like iOS users now going, oh, this is great, I can create this really thing, and I'm like, yo, we've gone there and come back already, like welcome like come back to us later. I will say, though, these images that people are posting of their home screens look a lot nicer than I ever seen on Android. It's weird. It's weird. Maybe just people are more creative or more about that look on Apple.
Do you know why this is happening now? Do you want a little bit of explanation about why, like, there's this
Sure,
underlying
yes.
aesthetic
Please
push?
matsplain it to me. Matsplain
I'll
it to
try.
me.
Matsplain. It's the Matsplain segment. Jingle. Hit the jingle.
Dun, 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 dun.
So alongside like these widgets now, which include like you can have like a full, a screen encompassing photo widget that has like your prettiest photos on display, or weather widgets, or calendars, the rest of it. And there's also third-party ones, which adds this own aesthetic again. But you can now, with iOS 14, you can kind of uniquely tweak with the image files for icons and kind of ascribe your own ones. And that means you can just kind of go bonkers like you could on Android devices. Like you can very much just choose any kind of image and slap it on any kind of app, whether it's an internal Apple, native app, or Chrome, or Maps, or Spotify. And so you can literally make any kind of aesthetic. You can make it kind of, a mosaic photo that joins together. You can, have a unified kind of nature theme. I'm looking at an absolutely bonkers superhero one where they have a different different Marvel superhero for like every icon.
I love that.
And I think there's something nice. I agree with what you were saying. Like Android people have come full circle. Like, we went completely wacky a few years ago. And remember, I imagine, I can totally recall LG as a particular example, offering their own kind of aesthetic builds where it would, they were skins, weren't they? You called them skins.
Yeah, there were so many. LG had its own, Samsung had its own, HTC had Sense, all of those.
Yeah, and it would unify all of the icons and kind of, splash them all with the same paint and the same kind of aesthetic logic and stuff. So it's really weird to see iPhones doing it now. I mean, is it retro? I feel like it's a retro thing to do.
It's retro in the way that like fashion brings back retro every once in a while, but adds a new fresh spin. So it is kind of retro, but still feels new. I think, especially to iOS users who have been faced with the same screen for so long, now being able to play around and have that freedom is fun. I want to go quickly into like what iOS 14 does offer that Android doesn't get yet, but want to point out that when we were on our production call talking about iOS 14 with our video team for this show, everyone on our video team is like iOS people, so I'm not trying to judge, but I'm trying to judge. Everyone is an iPhone user, and no one on our team, it seems like, has downloaded iOS 14 just yet. And I think that's wise. I think that so one of them who's on the stream now just chimed in to say that they have and that it's good. I think Julio was the one who chimed in, and he thinks he's a techie, so maybe that's why he downloaded it ahead of time. But most people, I think, don't jump on software updates as quickly as we do. So if you're out there listening to this podcast, you're probably an early adopter. But if you have friends who haven't, maybe show them your aesthetic, convince them that this is the whole point of getting iOS 14. But yeah, there's some other features on iOS 14, right?
There's a few. There's a lot actually to kind of like chew over. That's the thing though. When you do these reviews and your brain is just 24/7 thinking about this topic. So let's talk about my favorite things. So there's huge upgrades obviously with the widgets and with app organization, and kind of it refreshes the whole experience. Now, on top of that, you have genuine, feature additions. Now, I loved picture-in-picture video, which I've already mentioned. And now this is a big one. The ability to choose default apps for your email client and your web browser. Now, this is good stuff.
Yes.
I'm a Chrome and a Gmail user, so they went immediately onto default. And yeah, it's just so nice to have my process set. Like I open things in Chrome because, I have, it's on my PC. I have my add-ons and my widgets. I have my bookmarks. I have my passwords manager. It all smooths better when I know I'm opening a link into Chrome and not Safari. And now it does it for me, so I don't have to awkwardly try and copy and paste from the address bar, open the Chrome app, copy and paste it in, have to re-log in again, and just have myself have a headache just for using my phone.
Welcome to what Android has had for a while, but yes.
Tell me about it. So I did those changes immediately. I really hope Apple kind of walks this further. I hope they kind of every review you'll read about iOS 14 says the same thing, bring maps. I don't want to open Apple Maps. Give me Google Maps.
Yes.
But I was 100%. Thinking things like Notes. I'd love Notes to be other kind of organization and productivity services. That would be very cool to save it into I'm trying to think of the Google equivalent. They have their own kind of notes-esque. Keep is exactly what I'm thinking of. Yeah, Google Keep, or hey, even like Evernote or some Dropbox functionality. There's lots that Apple could do with this to make it even more kind of power user friendly, and that's what it feels like. It feels like a lot of this is great power user stuff, but a lot of it is good for dumb people like me. Do you want me to go on?
Yes, please keep going. Why are you a dumb person? I would love to know.
It's the blonde hair. It's mostly the blonde hair. It's just disguised by the British accent. Yeah, I never graduated high school.
I have nothing to add to that. I really don't think I can chime in.
So why is iOS 14 good for stupid people like me, or maybe lazy is a better word? No, it's probably Siri. Like Siri got good. Siri got smarter. So there's like alongside one of these widgets, there's one called Smart Stacks. And this means you can kind of overlap widgets on top of each other because you don't always need the weather widget. You need it when you need it, and then show me battery life, show me news headlines. So with Smart Stacks, you can kind of layer them on top of each other if they're compatible sizes. And then you have the ability to cycle through them. On top of that, with Siri and like machine learning, the phone, as you use it, will start to kind of automatically shuffle the cards up. The ones you will need to see or would see, it automatically bubbles them up later. There's even one that does this with like an app. There's like a Siri suggestions widget that is at its biggest size, looks just like 8 normal app icons. But these are like automatically generated. They're like algorithmically known to be the ones you're going to use or want to use at either that time of day, or I've seen it stimulated by when I disconnect Bluetooth or leave the house. The best example I wrote in the review is like whenever I left my house at midday to go to the gym, my like HIIT timer app would automatically pop up in my notifications saying, "Do you want to launch this now?" And this is the clever stuff. This is the kind of predictive, smartphones I want to see. Oh, smartphones! See what I did there? Like these are the kind of things where it's doing half the job for me. Like bring the feature before I know I need it. Like you have the knowledge, you know how I use my phone. Arguably I use my phone for way too many hours each day. Like inform that, design the phone around how I use it. It's really refreshing and very cool. Like this is very much like initial steps, but I find it exciting. Am I too excited? I think I might be.
Maybe, but it's okay. It's okay to get excited. Because I even am excited for this because Google has done stuff like that, like suggested apps and whatever in your apps drawer, or even a suggested row of apps in Android 11. I've never found them to be all that useful or clever. They've just never surfaced the right apps for me. So it sounds like these widgets or the Smart Stacks or Siri suggestions seem to be at least understanding your behavior on your phone better. And I need to go and like figure out if I'm, maybe not doing something right with Android.
Just to follow on from that, I have been using iOS 14 in the beta as well. So it probably has a lot more information. Although were you using Android 11 in kind of...
I was using Android 11 in beta for a while, and then I was using the full Android 11 before my review went up for a bit. And it's still, it's not even just Android 11 specific. It's overall Android, right? The whole suggestions software system in there, it's still not as smart as I'd like it to be. Like that use case that you talked about with the hit timer coming up once you leave the house never happens for me. Like,
although you don't do anything and you don't leave the house though.
Right now it's true, yes. But it should be smart enough to know, because like I almost always at the same time every day launched my yoga app to cast a workout to TV or something, right? And you could always surface that app like near the right time of day.
It's still not popping up for you.
In part because also the way I use my apps is like I search them directly from the homepage anyway. You know what I mean? Like I just pull down the search.
You'll know these things, shouldn't it? You should know you're launching that program, right?
Right. So I feel like there's a lot of work to do. The other thing too that I want to point out that Android doesn't have that iOS 14 brings is, you've always had iMessages. I love iMessage. Like that was the hardest thing for me when quitting Apple that I did 5 or 6 years ago, and I had to like give up on all my iMessage group chats. And back then I was into group chats. Like, well, I am into it now too. But anyway, the fun thing during your review was that we had to get on an iMessage group chat because I was also reviewing the Apple Watch at the same time. So I had my iPhone going, and we could change the name of the group. I think we could also change the icon, which is new. And these are like very minimal like tweaks to iMessage. They're not the huge things, but you could also thread messages, I guess. And I think it was a little bit confusing. In fact, you were a little annoyed when I kept replying to a thread, apparently. Was that annoying for you? Like, is this a feature you wish wasn't there?
No, like these are all good features, but it all plays catch up. But this is one of those we've already been talking about. You know, we're from different countries and stuff. But in the UK,
Yes.
everyone swears by WhatsApp. Like, I
Mhm.
know you're quite a heavy Telegram user, and yeah,
Mhm.
messages just like it exists here and people use it, but it's definitely not the big
Yeah.
messaging king it is in other countries. Like,
Yeah.
so a lot of these features to me were like, yeah, I've seen this before. I've seen this either on Android messages or WhatsApp or Telegram
Yeah.
or even Line. Like, if you want to go crazy,
Yeah.
like. I mean, it's, you know, like it means it stacks up better against its rivals. So it's all good stuff. But again, it's nothing to get too hype about, I don't think.
But it's still better than Android messages. Like, let's
It
be
is then.
honest.
You still feel it is.
It still is, because RCS is here, but it's still not really the dream that I really wanted it to be. The nice thing about things like iMessage and Android messages is that you don't need to have your friend install something else to be able to talk to them, right? You just need their phone
Yeah.
number or their contact information. And that's why these built-in apps, it is so important to get them better. Yes, there are a plethora of other options out there for chatting on, but you still have that added step of making it like I love Telegram, but I can't get all the people I want to be on Telegram. Like, I still need to like find alternative means to talk to people sometimes, which is hella annoying. Y'all just get on Telegram if you want to talk to me. But I also have to talk to you on WhatsApp, which is annoying. I'm like, ugh. My WhatsApp has a notification. Must be Matt. Has got to be Matt.
What? It might be Brian. It might be Brian.
It's either Brian or Matt, or my family. But there you go. Anything else about iOS 14 we should, kind of pay attention to?
Let me think. I'm trying to think of like the main things. There's so much to kind of chew over.
I know.
I think one thing I found is a lot of the features are kind of hidden away. Now, this is a very Apple thing, I think. But unless you're like totally, you know, you've read, like if you're, you know, an Apple device reviewer, you've read the kind of Apple sanctioned reviewer guide or watched the entirety of WWDC, so you know absolutely every new iOS feature. But a lot of it is just squirreled away. They have a tips app that is okay. It's a lot broader. It just teaches you, you know, skills for iOS. Period. Not any kind of particular version of iOS. So a lot of the time, like, you wouldn't know these things unless you sort them out. Like the translation app is a great new addition. Now this does on device translation if you remember to download the language packet. So if you're thinking of using it when you next travel somewhere, which might be quite a while from now.
But
you need to download these language packs ahead of time. But once you do, you have like a magical audio-based translator you can type in as well in all these major core languages. I think there's about 12 languages at the moment. But it's impressive. It's good. It works good with my Japanese. It worked on my not great French and German. It worked with Brian. We just mentioned Brian O, our video producer guy in New York. It worked with his Korean. It's pretty impressive. I mean, Google used to be the king. Well, is, I'd say, still the king.
Still is, yes.
Yeah, language translation.
Yeah. I was going to shout that out. Like, again, another thing that welcome to Android, which, you know, Google rolled out better translation services recently, but it has always had pretty good translation tools. Even on the phones, you just have to pull up a separate app. But now it's better baked in, I think, into apps like Maps or Assistant and stuff like that. But yeah, it's nice to see you know, have this feature available for iOS as well.
Yeah, like just any kind of translation that's on device makes it more likely for you to use it when you're actually on vacation. You know, when you just don't want to use data because you're afraid you're going to get billed forever. And it's a great feature to see. I think the main takeaways are better home screens, more, you know, your phone doesn't look like the iPhone did in 2007. Now it looks modern. It gives you information you need. And that's like, you know, we're in 2020 now. This is what you should expect from an Apple smartphone.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Siri getting to a point where it's relevant and useful. It's not perfect, of course, but it's getting a lot better.
Yay. I think that's a good segment break.
I did use my tone of voice as if end of segment.
Yeah, you did. Do we want to do a quick pause, or do we want to just quickly blast through working on Engadget picks?
I think I'd like to go just straight through working on Engadget picks, everything. So this is just a reminder to the chat. We are watching. Please Put in your questions. We'll get to them after we're done with the recording. Again, we're just doing this to make sure that the people who listen to the podcast after the fact don't end up feeling left out. And Mark Dell's back in the chat. That's
hi, Mark
name
Dell.
that we've seen a bunch of times before. Always happy to hear
and
you.
also Charbax is here. Hi, Charbax. And yes, I will ask Google Soft to bring Chrome native to Windows on ARM. Listen, they don't have it native. They say they do a lot of work on Chrome, but yes, I will ask them. But we'll go ahead with our recording now, doing more segments.
Okay, yes. And so let's hit working on.
I can lead that if you want.
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So your iOS 14 review went up. Mark?
Wow. Can we do that again? Can we?
Let's do that again.
Please, let's do it again.
Should we talk about how Chris put the wrong
Take
name
two.
on my video?
Oh gosh, don't be salty. Don't be salty. But yes, for those of you who saw a review video and the credits spelled Matt with 2 T's, his Matt is actually with 1 T, like a welcome Matt. But yes,
Matt that you step on.
Yes,
yeah, that's what I was
Doormat.
feeling this week. Yeah. That was the vibe.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so let's
take that again. Reset. Okay, and shout out to Mark Dell, I guess. Okay. So your iOS review went up this week, Matt. But what else have you been working on?
Well, that's a great question, Shirley. Because half the time I don't know what I'm working on. So what have I been doing recently? I've also been playing with the Apple Watches. So sorry I missed out on your talk last week. So testing them out. I'm taking a few photos here and there. Loving Apple Watches. I can only use one at a time. I have the Apple Watch SE and the Apple Watch Series 6. So I've got the 6 on at the moment.
Would love to know what you think is the better one, because I think
interesting. Yeah.
Whether the SE is enough is the question. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the thing. But I think given that I've had a Series 5 before, I don't think I could pedal back too much
true.
the SE.
Yeah.
But for most people, that's a very interesting watch. Apart from that, what else am I working on this week? I'm always feeling so busy, but maybe I'm not busy. Maybe I should be fired. Obviously, every day I'm doing the Engadget the morning after newsletter. Please subscribe. tma@engadget.com. Email me. TMA is also an anagram of Matt, so it's very easy to remember.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I can't say remember, though. And then I've got the Morning Edition podcast, which is a different podcast to this. So that keeps me going for half the day. In the afternoons, I'm editing people. So I've got some cool stories from the other UK guys, Nick Summers, Dan Cooper. Steve Dent also reviews some cameras. So he's reviewing some cameras for us at the moment. So that's my day. I'm afraid I haven't got anything specific to tell you about right now.
That's totally cool. That's what your job is. And, I never ever think that you're not doing any work. So don't worry about that. I'm not going to tell on you to our overlords. I've been working on, as per usual, listeners of this podcast will know I'm always working on top secret stuff. So more stuff I can't tell you about. But by the time this podcast goes live, you can check out Engadget.com for something else that is like under wraps that you'll see very soon. Some interesting stuff around ethics and mental well-being, that sort of stuff. So yeah, keep it locked. We obviously are also about to head straight into reviews season. So there will be a lot of devices that we're going to review soon. Stay tuned for all of that before you buy anything. And also Apple's iPhone events probably going to come up soon. So I think we're all in like prep mode for that. We don't have an actual date, but we're good preppers. We believe in preparing for the future. Anyhow, speaking of preparing yourself, we also need to relax once in a while. And Matt, you prepared some recommendations for us. What are you telling people to check out this week?
What would you like? Give me a flavor. I'm sure I have a recommendation for anything.
Flavor, matcha.
Matcha flavor. That's my Engadget pick. Matcha flavor.
Matcha. M-A-T, matcha for tea. Okay, that was not as funny as I thought. What is your real recommendation? Let's go.
I mean, it's a bit lame because we've been talking about it half the podcast, and I was talking to you about it just before we kick this off. But the Pixel 4a, this is like an incredible little phone. Like I got it a bit later than the US team, so I missed the kind of review rush. Oh well. So I'm
thanks for your help.
Yeah, you're welcome. But yeah, it's an incredible little phone. Like we're saying, like the price point and the specs and how it looks, you're you're getting so much bang for your buck here. Like,
I'm talking
it's
about the
hard.
original 4A, right? Not the 4A
Yes,
5G.
the 4A.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, not the 5G. Like, you could wait till next year for a 5G phone, I would argue.
Yeah, probably.
A headphone jack. Again, that Pixel camera, which is just so reliable. It might not be the complete best, but a lot of these completely best camera phones are only the best when they're in the hands of the pros. If you give a Pixel phone to Engadget superfan, my mom, Julie Smith, she will still take incredible photos because the Pixel does half the work for her. Like,
so she's a great photographer now.
Oh, yeah. Well, she uses an iPhone most of the time, but I have a Pixel nearby. So when we had a family gathering recently, and when it came time to take photos of my adorable baby niece,
yes,
shout out to Etta if she's listening. She definitely isn't.
She's definitely listening. She is listening. Yeah,
she's in our hearts. But yeah, but when it came to taking photos there, like I could pass my Pixel to anyone in my family and know we'd get a really nice, family photo without any need for me to kind of handhold or take the photo myself, that kind of thing.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good recommendation for people who are looking for a phone for not too much money. I am going to recommend our usual pop culture entertainment recommendations. However, since Devendra's not here, don't tell Devendra, but I watched his recommendation from last week because I never watch his recommendations. But last week he recommended this show on Amazon Prime called Utopia, and it's as good as he says. It holds up. It's very wild. But my actual recommendations are, and I forget what order I was going to tell them in. But okay, so one of them, and I on this show I try to like own the Asian horror genre. God, my accent's all over the place again. Asian horror movies are my whole thing. And so this week, I'm starting off with this Korean flick called Svaha, The Sixth Finger. I don't really know how to pronounce that first word. It's Svaha. Svaha? I have no clue. The Sixth Finger. It's not really supernatural, but it's slightly supernatural. I'm a big fan of like anything with ghosts and science fiction and fantasy, and this is right there. It's about a religious cult worshiping for deity type things, but they're going around killing girls because they believe one girl is some sort of big enemy or something, big enemy energy. So anyhow, it's really typical of like recent Korean films where there's this underdog story involved, but there's also this like criminal procedural element to it, and then also some hints at supernatural stuff going on. I really liked it. It was a big mood. It was really mysterious. It felt great. I don't know if you spend a lot of time watching Asian movies anymore, Matt. But this is available on Netflix. I think you might be able to check it out in the UK as well. I don't know if you watch actually ghost shows, but
look, if it's on UK Netflix, we do get a different flavor of Netflix.
You do. But I mean, if you have, I would recommend you check it out because I like this sort of stuff. The other recommendation is something a lot more light, but still very supernatural, but really freaking hilarious. You must have heard of this show. Everyone, I think, has heard of this show. It's people have hyped it up, and I've just refused to watch it until recently. It's called What We Do in the Shadows. Have you heard of it?
Of course,
it is so good. It is like is another level. It's a whole other level. It's a comedy series on Hulu here in America, and I mean, I've heard so much about how good it is. It's deadpan humor. It's very like low key. The budget seems not too high. Like the production value isn't super. There's no special effects for a lot of things, but the humor and the writing is ridiculous. The characters are all just these like pathetic actual vampires, but they're like, we're so great, mwahaha, and then like a light blinks in the background. That sort of juxtaposition.
Schlocky kind of.
Yeah, it's hilarious. And
it's based on a movie, right, by Taika Waititi.
It sounds so familiar.
It's based. So there was a movie and then a spin-off TV series.
Thank you. I like what he does, Taika Waititi. So I can't pronounce his name either. I am so sorry.
I think he's involved with the TV series as well. So.
Oh, good. I mean, the TV stuff he's worked on. I think he was involved in Community too, and Community is really great. So yeah. So anyway, What We Do in the Shadows. If you want something laugh out loud funny, like honestly, like I didn't think I was in the mood to laugh when I accidentally started watching What We Do in the Shadows, but like I just let it play on in the background, and I just couldn't stop like laughing. It was ridiculous. So that's for you to relax to, dear listener and viewer. hopefully something that will cheer you up amid all of this bleakness that is going on. All right, so I can do the outro, Ben, if we're ready, and then we can take more questions from the.
Yeah, let's do the outro. I've been banking questions. We have some pretty substantial ones, so we'll hit that after we do the outro.
Wonderful, and I'll do this outro really quick. I'm hearing some sort of audio.
Yeah, Ben, I think your mic connection. It feels like it's just.
This is the issue.
Maybe we need to mute Ben slightly for a bit to see what's up with the mic. Okay. All right. I'm just going to take the outro recording on my end. It will hear it on the recording, my local recording anyway. Okay. And that's it for the episode this week, everyone. Thank you, as always, for listening. Our theme music is by game composer Dale North. Our outro music is by our very own Terrence O'Brien. The podcast is produced by Ben Elman. You can find Matt online at
Twitter at that Matt Smith. That's Matt with 1 T.
And if you need me, you want to tell me about all these shows that I'm never going to watch until 2 years later, I'm at Cherlynn Low on Twitter as well. Email us your thoughts and feedback at podcast@engadget.com. Leave us a review, please, on iTunes, and subscribe on anything that gets podcasts, including Spotify. All right. I think that's it for the podcast recording, and we can take questions.
Okay, yes. Is my audio a little bit fixed?
No, not at all.
So what is the issue?
There's like static in the background. Like it sounds like, like your mic thing is wiggling or something.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Ben/Cherlynn, can I press stop on this recording?
Matt, sorry, Ben generally likes us to keep going just in case there's like little nuggets during this.
Yeah, just in case there's something kind of funny.
I know that like my laptop sounds like it's about to take off, so I'm just seeing what I can kill.
Like your fans are on high speed. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've had a lot of stuff that people are talking about.
Okay.
Jesse said a couple of times, "Ooh, did Matt accidentally leave?" I think he may have.
He was fixing his laptop.
Yeah, we'll just let him come back. But
yeah, and he can handle everything for now.
Jesse in the chat said, hate to see Google neglecting the Indian market. The 4A isn't released yet. The Pixel 3A launched for a very high price of $546. And it seems like the Chinese market has successfully captured the Indian market. So can you comment on why Google isn't better in the Indian market?
I can't tell you why, because I don't know what their decision is there. I also don't know that they're doing this deliberately. I feel more like, I mean, they have made, it seems like the approach with the Indian market has been something along the lines of Kai OS, which is to use like a more affordable or lightweight version of Android, because it seems like affordable phones feel so much more important in certain markets than in the US. In the US, like an affordable phone just doesn't do as well as the high spec version. And I think it has a lot to do with the way like these phones are bought by consumers, which is through their carriers. And so carriers have all the control here, whereas it's kind of, I'm not familiar with the Indian market at all, but it feels a bit more free for all in other parts of the world. And I don't think that Google is neglecting India like deliberately. I think more that certain countries are just easier for Google to work with right now. I do feel bad that you guys are not getting the Google phones first or early or at the same price. You are right, though, that the Chinese brands have definitely kind of like taken over. Their Xiaomi phones are doing really well. Oppo, Realme, Vivo, they're making very good budget phones for that market. And yeah, I think it feels like Chinese companies are eating up the money that Google's leaving behind there.
And then Gabriel in the chat mentioned in relation to iOS 14, he just said like he tried customizing widgets and then just decided the grid was easier due to muscle memory, which is true. Like the thing that I've seen in all of the reviews is the great and maybe a little annoying thing about iOS 14 is that nothing needs to change. It could just be another update if you want it to be, or it could be like a real revolution in aesthetics.
For real, that was a major point I made during my review as well. Like, you can change how you use your iPhone, or you can just keep using it the way you've always used it, and that's not a problem either. Like, it's very easy to just carry on using it like it's iOS 13, which is, I'd say that's a pretty good thing as well.
And then Doug said that with Apple slowly lowering its walled garden around proprietary things, and with its antitrust case, when do you think they would allow third-party digital assistants, or would they at
Ooh.
all? I mean, I've
Why would we want
used
them though, right?
Yeah,
I've
like
used isn't there a Google Assistant app? I think I've downloaded the Google Assistant app briefly.
Yeah,
you
you
can
can
have
use the
Google
Google
Assistant.
Assistant app. Yeah, yeah. On iOS, and that's because Google wants to be on everything. Google also has more services across different things. Like an iOS user might still use Google Drive, right? Whereas for me, I'm an Android user. I don't use iCloud. Like it's a little bit different. I have different needs. Yeah.
But maybe the idea of it is that you could use a Google Assistant or Hound. Like I was using Hound for like a hot 3 months several years ago, from SoundHound, which is really just a like it's in the same space as what is it, Shazam. It will tell you what song you're listening to.
Right.
So I think what they're looking for is like, oh, okay, you can just use Google Assistant instead of Siri. I don't know if that's ever going to happen. Like that would
No,
be
not for an iPhone. I don't think so. Also, it just wouldn't make sense because like Siri can do more things on an iPhone than Google Assistant can. The way that Apple has worked it out, like you can send messages with Siri, but you probably won't be able to do that with Assistant the way you can with Siri.
yeah. And then I think this may be more for Matt, but I'm not sure. There's a question from DJ about DJ. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Have you guys heard about the chaos with the pre-orders of the NVIDIA 3000 series
Yeah,
GPUs?
that
Like,
was a
A lot
week
of
or
people
so
still
ago.
waiting. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah,
do you have anything to say other than like feels bad, man?
that's the thing, right? But it's funny because Nvidia offered a pre-apology before it had even screwed up the sale of this card. So they knew this was coming, and they still just could not figure it out. They were like surprised there was this huge demand for this leap in graphics capability, which just seems so dumb.
Shout out to all the people talking about Windows on ARM about 64 x64 emulation. Yes, that is apparently coming. 64-bit x64 support is coming later this year. Microsoft just announced that yesterday. And then yes, Steam working on the Surface X. Mark Dell is just answering questions for us. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mark. There's another question about, do you think they'd ever have third-party control center widgets? Yeah, I'm looking forward to stuff that we haven't even seen yet. Like, I think that there's probably going to be like a little widget revolution now in iOS 14, and I'm looking forward to like the new hot widget that everyone is going to be using.
I mean, Hot Widgets is its own podcast right there. But yeah, like you've barely seen any third-party widgets yet, let alone an app that only offers, widgets being like the main point of an app. So yeah, you're going to see those kind of things. But we've kind of run its course with widgets on Android, so the education has already happened. I mean, I kind of appreciate iOS's toggles in the pull-down menu more than I need it on the home screen. Like, I feel like I can use other things on my home screen. Like, I have better uses for the space than toggles. I mean, Android toggles are now in the drop-down as well. So, yeah, I'm not sure if that's the thing that's going to set the world on fire.
I'm curious though if there's going to be. I think Cherlynn wanted to say something.
Yeah,
so
sorry. I'm just catching
in.
up on the chat and just shouting out like those people asking me to tell my secrets. What do you think I'm gonna get myself like in trouble with all my company people? No, I do have a ton of secrets, and y'all can just check Engadget.com for them. I have seen Theo Brian asked, but I have seen the new Fitbit Sense. Indeed, we talked about it about 2 episodes ago, or last episode actually. So please check out the episode of the podcast on whatever podcast platform. And people are also asking about pre-orders. Can you still pre-order a PS5 and Xbox Series X? Also, a lot of good comments about the best tagline for the Pixel 4a. Approved by mom. Approved by Matt's mom. Isn't that great?
Does she get money from Google if they use that on the box?
Y'all can figure that out. You negotiate that. Shout out to we got like a lot of good conversations going. The DJ, I think I can't really pronounce the name. Also, like Ben, also has a lot of good comments about Discord and Overwatch. And some late joiners to the show were asking if we can update y'all on what the Surface surprise news was. Basically, the Laptop Go and the Surface Pro X has an update. So that's basically it. Really no news on the Neo and no other really exciting, like, oh my gosh, this thing is so good kind of news, you know?
Here's an interesting thing from D-Man. D-Man is another returning commenter.
D-Man's great, yes.
Hello, what's up? He said that weather and stocks would be good widgets for me, but he heard some YouTubers saying that iOS 14 really hurt their battery life. Okay. Oh yeah, and DJ is saying that it's pronounced DJ. Okay, thank you for correcting us.
Thank you. That's what I thought, but can't be too sure, you know?
So, when you were mentioning how few people upgraded to iOS 14, when we were talking about that in our production meeting, I hit back by saying that it's always good to wait a point release or so.
Absolutely.
And yes, you always say to wait a point release or so. So I'm hoping that the battery life issue will probably be resolved in a point release or a couple.
I don't know if it'll be that fast, but yeah, maybe a couple. I wouldn't know. iOS rollouts are not something I'm as familiar with. Matt, do you have any suggestions for people who might want to update to iOS 14 and are worried about bugs or battery drain?
Like the major bugs I still see are unsurprisingly with the widgets. A lot of them don't update when you need them to. Like I have news on my news widget from last week and it's still stuck there, and it doesn't seem to be anything I can do to fix it. And then every now and then it will suddenly magically refresh itself. So yeah, the widgets are still a little bit buggy. There was an intriguing bug that did the rounds on iOS 14.0, where when you set your default browser to something other than Safari, if you hard reset your phone, hard rebooted it, sorry. If you hard rebooted your device, it would reset that to Safari. So you'd think things would be opening in Chrome, and then you'd be like, oh, that's odd. That just opened in Safari. Anyway, that got fixed on iOS 14.1. So like we're saying, if you wait for just a 0.1, that often fixes a lot of things.
That's
and
good.
For the record, I haven't seen any issues with power management whatsoever.
Which iPhone are you using?
The big old giant one, 11 Pro Max. Because
okay, so not even like a very new iPhone, and you're still not seeing the battery drain, which is good.
Yeah, the only newer one is the SE, right?
Yeah. I keep thinking the 12 is already out, but that's just me having read too many leaks. Speaking of phones that are not yet out, the OnePlus 8T Santino Fantila, I think, excuse me, asked if we have the OnePlus 8T reviewed. That phone's not even like actually announced yet, even though like the announcement, like OnePlus has said it's going to announce that phone, I think, on October 14th. So no, we don't have a review yet, but stay tuned. I think we will.
We've got one comment from DJ asking, what laptop do we recommend for someone who has a pretty competent PC as their main driver? So you're looking for like a gaming laptop, it seems.
No, they're using their PC for gaming.
Oh, okay.
So depends on like what your most important features are. If you want to stay connected all the time and you don't really care about app compatibility, any of the Windows on ARM laptops are actually pretty decent. Like if you're not using it for Photoshop because you have your PC to do that stuff on, and you don't need to use Photoshop on the go, yeah, Windows on ARM is actually perfectly fine. I love the gigabit connectivity everywhere I go. And if you want to shell out for that extra data money. Otherwise, if you're looking for like a lightweight Windows 10 laptop that does everything, I mean, not to be a Devindra here, but you can always do the XPS 13. Or the Surface laptops are pretty good as well, but those are on the expensive side. It also depends on like what your budget is. If you want to spend a bit less money and you're okay with Chrome OS, Chromebook could be good too. There's just a lot of options.
I've always thought that it was funny that Devindra always talks about like, I was an IT guy, and
yeah,
he clearly has IT guy taste.
Yes, definitely. Someone's asking what buds am I using? I'm using the Galaxy Buds Plus right now for the stream, but I do have the Pixel Buds. Yeah.
Can you ask me what headphones I'm using, please?
Are you using the Apple EarPods with wire?
Yeah, the Inbox Apple iPhone wired headphones, circa, I guess, 2015, because they still have a 3.5 millimeter jack.
Is that what you're
Um,
using it with this stream now? Like you plugged it into your laptop via the 3.5?
Yeah, just like plugged into my laptop. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, very innovative, money-saving audio solution. Next question.
Yeah. I'm trying to go back upwards because I remember seeing a few. Oh, someone asked if we have the Pixel 5. I don't have it yet.
I have no. This is just an
Nope.
iPhone in a similar looking case.
But
Scared people
speaking
there.
of pixels and cases, so Matt, you were talking about a cloth case or something, and I'm wondering how
Yeah.
that doesn't pick up stains. Like, do you?
It does.
Do you leave your phone in puddles, Ben?
No,
What
I
are you
don't
talking
leave my phone in puddles, but like I might leave it on my coffee table, and my coffee table might have residue, even though I try to keep clean
Oh,
house.
it's quite a hardy fabric. It's like sofa
It's
fabric or a
nice.
curtain fabric. It's quite a hardy weave of a thing. But yeah, I've had it on the 3 and the 4. But yeah, it's also like it's not a single color. So yeah, any kind of stain you do get on it doesn't show up much.
Okay.
It's fairly easy to clean, I think, too. But mine did get really grotty after some time. I just was like, ugh, can't bring this near my bed.
And you're
then
you're a clean freak, and I'm a grubby person.
I'm so I can't. Can I say anal? I'm so obsessed with cleanliness that like I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, this is reminding me that I would really like to get a case to protect my brand new baby iPhone SE2, and I want a case that feels good in my hand, and I think that a fabric case might be good for that. So I will
Yeah,
try to find a fabric case that does a similar thing of not picking up stains or anything.
Like seriously, that's still like one of the best things about iPhones is you get so
Yeah.
many options when it comes to cases. Have you seen my fake sushi case, Ben?
I've seen the sushi you ate in your mouth.
Desk?
Oh,
Is it easy for you to find, or?
it's absolutely thick and solid, so I barely use it. But yeah, like it was like actually just glued onto like a really cheap plastic case, I think. But yeah, it was when I was living in Tokyo, and it's like fake, genuine looking, sushi on rice. And yeah, that was my case at one point.
All right, we're gonna tackle the last few questions in on the chat because we reached a lull, and then like you guys suddenly have more questions. But we're gonna wrap this up because we've been here for 2 hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, D-Man points out he still loves the headphone jack. Very good point that you don't have to charge them or lose them. Very good. DJ asked if we see Microsoft shaping the gaming industry with their latest acquisition of Bethesda and the rise of Game Pass.
That's what we talked about last week.
I was gonna say, I swear you guys talked about this last week.
We did.
But like to paraphrase Matt's opinions on it, like Bethesda is a huge win for Microsoft, and like the best thing they have going for the Xbox is Game Pass. So yeah, this is like all great news for Xbox. I mean, Sony still has the lead, and I would say that, but yeah, Xbox is playing.
Of course you would.
Xbox is playing a good game, so yeah, it's all getting quite exciting.
DJ, if you want our deeper thoughts on that, please check out last week's episode of the Engadget podcast. Santino asked, what do we think of the Mi 10T Pro that was just announced this week? That was something I was thinking about including on the podcast as content or news this week, but we really just were overwhelmed with Google and Microsoft news, so we couldn't get to it.
I ended up writing about it, Cher. Like I wrote the news.
Please tell people what you think of the specs.
Well, that's the thing. I didn't see it. Like that's the thing. It's this blur. We kind of mentioned it earlier. Like it's this blur of incredible specs for a very reasonable price. Yeah, it sounds very excellent on paper. Like if you're gonna get one of these, like when Xiaomi announces a phone, it doesn't announce a phone; it announces 3. So always go for the longest name. You know, the Mi 10T Pro. Yeah, like Santino mentioned. Like that's the one you want to go for. That has the 108 megapixel sensor. This is literally going off the top of my head.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, huge battery. 100 and. Like, let me check it out. But I think the screen is like, it's not even 120. It's even higher, I think.
Oh. While you do that, I'm going to just shout out to other people who have left comments. Yes, the new fabric cases from Google this year do seem very pretty. Yes, Theo, Microsoft's aesthetic. The colors are so great this year. I really like the way it looks. And D-Man asked if Microsoft bought WB Gabe Studios in addition to ZeniMax. That would be a huge win for them, probably. DJ, don't worry about being new here. We love newcomers. Just keep coming back.
To go back to that,
contractually obligated now.
Yeah, you must stay on. You must stay on the stream until next week. So then back to the Mi 10T Pro. What a name! It has 144 hertz, 6.67 inch display. And it says it will reach that kind of refresh speed on social media and supported games. So something will run on it that goes at that speed. And it's priced at €599. So that's like
that's not bad at all.
Yeah, it's a keenly priced device. And at the same time, Xiaomi, just to kind of throw all the news out there, like they announced their own new smartwatch that doesn't run Wear OS. It's their own proprietary thing, but apparently you just have to charge it twice a month.
Or the battery life is 14 days long. We talked about this on Twitter.
Well, yes. Yeah, well, technically, the press release said 16 days.
There you go. So I think we're going to have to wrap up soon, but if you have more questions that you really want us to talk to you about, send them to podcast@engadget.com. Come back here next week, Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern for the next live recording. You can also hit us up on Twitter. I'm at Cherlynn Low. Matt, I'm insanely responsive for some reason. Matt is at that Matt Smith, and Ben, I forget your exact handle.
Hey, Bellman.
Hey Bellman.
Yes.
HEYB Elman. So
B-E-L-L-M-A-N.
thank you all so much. Thank you also to our video team, who I briefly sort of mentioned, but we have a host of people helping us out in the background here. Mark Dell definitely shouted out.
Yes,
by the way,
includes Owen Davidoff, Julio Barrientos, Luke Brooks, and Jason Shark. Thanks so much for the hot chat today, guys. This is great.
Yeah, this was fun. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Thanks. Have a great week. Bye-bye.